What's good? I'm Kinell, and this is Sinister Cinema, where we get deep into the guts of the stranger side of cinema. Just letting you know with this little bit at the start that we now have a Patreon. Sub up to that, and you can get all these episodes early and ad-free, so you won't even see this bit at the start. You get them a few days before the main episodes drop out. We've got some great guests coming up. We've got some studio episodes. We've got some Zoom episodes with some fantastic rappers talking about the films they love and the films that influenced them. We got a lot going on there. Plus, you get some bonus content like film reviews, all that kind of thing. I don't need to explain this to you. You know what a Patreon is. But yeah, it's patreon.com/Kinell Sinister Cinema. So check that out. Peace. Yes, people. What's good? I'm Kinell, and this is Sinister Cinema, where we get deep into the guts of the stranger side of cinema. Kinell Sinister Cinema is brought to you by Forgotten Sons Apparel. Check them out at forgottensonsapparel.co.uk. Forgotten Sons Apparel is a York-based streetwear brand drawing inspiration from alternative culture, tattoos, film, classic TV and cartoons from our childhood. In our own words, if you like our stuff half as much as we do, then we like it twice as much as you. I'm a big fan of this brand and I love the guys who make it. They've supported me for years, way before I was podcasting. They supported me in my battle rap career. You might have seen me rocking some of their garms on Don't Flop and other leagues. I love Forgotten Sons Apparel and I'm urging you all to check them out at forgottensonsapparel.co.uk. Right, now on with the show. Yes, once again, it is the KSC, Kinell Sinister Cinema. Cheers for liking, subscribing, all of them things. Give us a little review if you're on the audio channels. You know all the things that podcasters ask you to do. Well, I would like you to do them, please. Save and spread the word. Let other people know about this. You know, give me a little retweet. Give me a little share. These things all help me, and I could do with the help. But yes, here we go into part 2 of our John Carpenter retrospective with man like Theo Marlow. Legend shit. We're going to wrap it. This was an amazing conversation. Honestly, it could have gone on for a bit longer, but, you know, flipping, the man's a legend, so we'll definitely talk about John Carpenter in future again, and we'll definitely have Marlow back on again. But as it is, we got another hour of thrilling conversation for you, so here is the thrilling conclusion of our John Carpenter retrospective.
The answer to every question is I'd rather be home playing Xbox.
Every time they make a new Halloween movie,
There's a brilliant moment that happens.
something really great happens to me.
I'm sitting on my couch
I'm sitting on my couch.
and I extend my hand
I extend my hand
and a check drops in my hand
and a check lands.
and I continue playing video games.
On the other hand, I think Halloween 2 is an abomination and a horrible movie.
I will say that what got me through writing that script was Budweiser. 6-pack of beer a night.
A guy can make a great living writing scripts that never get made. I got this system down. I would do a quick outline, then I would do nothing for about 2 months, just have a good time. Because they gave you around 3 months to finish. And then the last 2 weeks, I take that outline and just burn through and turn it into a screenplay. They might say, oh, this is interesting, but we want you to do more work on it, and we'll pay you for that. Oh, great, thank you. I do the same thing again. Take their notes, 2 weeks before I had to hand it in, burn through it.
Budweiser.
New York was great, but what the hell happened?
Fuck you.
Basically, here's the kind of person that I am. If you ask me to do something, I'll do anything for you. If you tell me to do something, you're never going to get any place. Do not tell me to do something.
I have worked nonstop for about 40 years. I am fucking lazy. I want to kick back and relax. Eli Roth and his Hollywood hair. Darren Aronofsky, secretly, I think, hates horror films. Let the geniuses go. I'll stay home. Play Xbox. Hell yeah.
I decided years ago, I'm going to take it easy. I've really worked hard. So I'm going to do what makes me feel good. Watching basketball, playing video games, and living here in the Hollywood Hills with my beautiful wife. What else can I ask for?
I have to go meet my drug dealer soon, so let's...
I'm going to ask just one last question, and you've remained true to the genre throughout. Do you think that you'll continue to do that?
Well, yeah, I feel a great love for fantasy and horror and science fiction. I've always had since I've been a kid. And this is the girl who brought me, basically asked me to the prom. She brought me, and so I'm going to keep dancing with her. Because she's beautiful, and I love her very much.
Going
Yeah. this anti-establishment hippie is saying, "Fuck this."
Yeah. And what were the like film? I mean, it's got a sort of Invasion of the Body Snatchers feel to it. I know I don't really know much about the kind of source material behind this, but it's based on this short story from the 60s, and he's essentially taken that source material and created this big, powerful, you know, unabashed and really funny satire, like political satire. Around it too. I mean, it's not always meant to be funny. Obviously, it's meant to be sort of this. It even sort of feels a little bit kind of fever dreamy at times, but it's just it's just going to be a fucking big, badass, iconic film, and it succeeds in every single way. I mean, they've got Rowdy Roddy Piper as the main guy. I mean, what more?
And the fist fight between him and Keith David.
5 minutes and 20 seconds.
Yeah,
that's how long that fist fight goes on for. Apparently, I read they fought each other for real. The only things they faked were hits to the face and to the groin.
Yeah, and it's good for that whole 5 minutes and 20 seconds. Like that's way too long for a flipping cinematic fight scene between just two characters with their fists in a skanky alleyway, but it works.
It's all
so well.
It's all, as in, it's all just diegetic. It's all there's no score or anything.
Yeah,
soundtrack for
it's just the sounds of two guys really lumping fuck out of each other.
Yeah, properly go for it. One guy can't get another guy to see his opinion. if only we could use.
The guts of it is try on these glasses. No,
I think that scene perfectly just encapsulates, and if we could experience 5.5 minute memes without an attention deficit thing, then I think that would be a perfect summation of Twitter.
Yes,
it's just that fucking alleyway fight scene on repeat.
He really did predict social media arguments, didn't he?
He like the Simpsons predicted everything. He predicted, but it's interesting, isn't it? Because you have that knock-on effect of you know, this whole thing is just predicated on fucking capitalism and the idea of you know, the masses being suppressed and beaten into submission, probably like very you know, like what's the word, insidiously, you know, and behind closed doors and what have you. But anyway, and
that's it. Like the what's gone on behind closed doors, be it the aliens in They Live, or be it flipping Mark Zuckerberg and all this kind of thing, or like what should we call it? Lack of press regulation and over-regulation in different areas. Like, it leads to this sort of, it can mean that the popular view is not the correct one, and sometimes you just want someone to see that point of view, and no matter how much you present to them, you can't get them to agree with you, or or even see where you're coming from. And like that fight captures that frustration.
It's incredible. It's just incredible, because you really and it just keeps restarting, doesn't it? It sort of ends for a moment. You think it's finished, and then either Roddy Piper or Keith David goes back to the other one, and just like, no, it's you know, my opinion is right. My kind of seeing things is for what they are is correct, and
they're so knackered, because they're so knackered, like 3 minutes in, and it goes on for another 2 and a bit.
But that's got all the grains of truth to it as well, right?
Yeah.
It's be like, oh my God, well, I'm just fucking whatever, fine, you're right, you're correct, you know, whatever. And then he finally gets the sunglasses on him, doesn't he? Or he gets him to see some of the aliens that way. It's incredible. I mean, it's just the idea of like the kind of individual wealth and power, and this lie of the American dream, and all these kind of things.
That was reflected over here with Thatcherism.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, it had all and actually, was it kind of the reviews weren't that strong? I think this was actually the thing, but the reviews weren't that strong. But then, no, there was one film where like it's when it got to the UK, the LFF. It screened at the LFF after having like received really bad press in the States. Oh, actually, I think it was Assault on Precinct 13. So it's much. It was still kind.
When he went over, like when he brought Assault on Precinct 13 was kind of like written off as a B movie in the States, but over here, like it caught a lot of attention, and he got some overseas funding, which sort of funneled through into Halloween.
Yeah, that's it. But no, but I love the ideas in They Live, and like the fact. I mean, why it works so well as a satire is just even, you know, it obviously sets everything up, but it's not just that this kind of alien species has essentially taken over Earth and is kind of, you know, hypnotizing human beings into submission through everything that we see through the global capitalist machine, but also that humans are they want that. This is the end bit where they're just like, well, I'm going off to what is that? Who's the character? Oh, totally forgotten I'm blanking on the actor's name. But anyway, like the guy who like starts off as this homeless guy that they live with in you know the kind of the park area, and then he just ends up in this tux, you know, completely subservient to these alien creatures. He goes, "You boys can have a taste of that sweet life too," you know, and they all like get off in that.
Drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, exactly. They're just like, that's what we're being sold now in America and in the UK and all throughout the Western world. It's like, you know, like you're being sold this lie and this dream, and being told that it's good for you, and you need to wake the fuck up. It's like the original Wake the Fuck Up film. I don't know about the original, but it's certainly up there with the classics.
Yeah, even in the name, They Live. And of course, it gives us the iconic line, apparently ad-lib by Rowdy Roddy Piper. I came here to chew some bubblegum and kick some ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
I love the sound design around that, where you got people in it's the bank, isn't it? People in the bank.
That's it. Very on the nose. We're going to the financial establishment. The man.
Yeah, exactly. Straight in. It's fucking
straight
amazing.
To the money.
There were like so many other actors considered for the role Rowdy Roddy Piper plays. Like because like, he was going to go with Kurt Russell, but I think it was just I probably shouldn't cast this guy in every single one of my films. I'm sure we'll do more stuff together, but yeah, apparently Cruise was considered, apparently Swayze, apparently Baldwin, just anyone who was
he did the right thing.
Yeah,
he did the right thing. It was all these popping, good-looking action stars. It needed to be like the first time we see flipping Rowdy Roddy rocking up in it. You know, he's just like a flipping traveling man, dusty boots.
And the other thing, because these actors are they're part of the establishment, and if you can't, if you can't watch that film and see beyond the actor into the character, then there's no point sort of doing it. And that's why with Rowdy Roddy Piper, like, you know, when I first saw that film, I didn't know who that was. I don't follow wrestling at all. So so I kind of, for me, it was like perfect casting. I knew who Keith David was, but, you know, again, he's sort of more like a character actor, and obviously, you know, he'd been in The Thing, and he's excellent, of course, in it as well. But yeah, it just sort of felt like, I think after probably like 10 years of your films have these ideas in them, your films, you know, you're clearly anti-establishment, and you're clearly like trying to push a bit of a message, you know, with that. And he was never in interviews. He was just going like, let's fucking stop with all this bullshit. Just watch the film and feel what you feel, and the interpretations are up to you. But now he's just like, right, I'll get it out of my system then.
Yeah.
You know, like, this shit has gone too far. And this is my moment to just go like, yeah, like, this is my most political film ever.
Yes.
And hey, the final line hey, what's wrong, baby? Like when she, is it like she sees him when she's like riding him in bed, and like, yeah, honestly, that was one of the funniest endings to a film ever, I think.
Beginning to end, solid.
Yeah,
And that kind of like pulls it up to the end of like his 80s run.
Yeah.
After this, we have one of his more forgettable ones. Still got good parts in it. Memoirs of an Invisible Man.
Never seen it.
Yeah, flipping. I haven't rewatched it in a long time. Like, this was very much a Chevy Chase vehicle, and at the time, Chevy Chase had a bit. I'd like he was a big star and had a lot of say into like what his character was and all this, and it resulted in the film being kind of forgettable because I'm not really invested in Chevy Chase like that, but I'm invested in John Carpenter. So we have a couple of year gap and we get In the Mouth of Madness.
Let's go.
This is considered the third of his Apocalypse trilogy.
Yeah.
With The Thing and Prince of Darkness, which we missed.
We did miss it, but that's an amazing film as well.
Yeah, that's an incredible piece of work.
I love it. Just quickly in Prince of Darkness, like when I first saw the it's like just filmed on a camcorder. It's meant to be like a dream sequence, but it's not a dream. That people from the future are beaming this kind of vision into their heads, and it's like shot on this kind of Super 8 or something, and they're just moving past a gate, and then seeing this kind of figure all in black, like coming out of this church. And it's one of the creepiest things I've seen in one of his films, just because, and then they're just this kind of like weird message through it. It's really cool.
That's another one that's like very sort of Lovecraftian, and it's incredible considering how many of his movies have been like quite low budget and small scale. He's managed to create this fear of an approaching apocalypse.
Yeah.
Just like different ways. Like represented so simply in a like Prince of Darkness by just the homeless people looking a bit weirder and paying a bit more attention, and like you've got Alice Cooper playing one, and but he's the sort of key one that you see. Like I think he included him like in a completely non-speaking role, just so like when he started adding more and more homeless people, you'd realize it was the same people every time.
Right. Okay.
That were just like surrounding the building.
I mean, it's a real visual motif. He like continues from film to film, which is this weird thing of just crowds. Crowds are a big thing, or just big gangs and things. I mean, even in Assault on Precinct 13, you've got this huge swarm of. It's like he's never made a zombie film. Am I incorrect in saying that? But
he's never made a straight up zombie film.
Like so many of his films deal with human beings being kind of zombified. I mean, They Live is another one, obviously, but in a totally kind of different way. I just think
you've got The Fog and like these all the people surrounding the building, the homeless people in Prince of Darkness, like and Eyes.
The Fog is probably, like you said, The Fog. I mean, The Fog is probably his closest to a zombie film, right? Because they're actually meant to be they're just ghosts on it, the ghosts of a shipwreck. But that's exactly it, isn't it? Eyes, shots of eyes. It's a real. Now you said that, it's a strange. You mentioned the kind of the sort of swarms of these homeless guys, like almost orbiting around the church, but.
Yeah, there's something about Eyes in like a pretty high percentage of his film, like the eyeglasses in They Live, what do you call it? Snake Plissken's eye patch in Escape from New York and L.A. The fact that Michael Myers, you can't really see his eyes, and there's that speech about it, black eyes, the devil's eyes.
But again, even in those films, like Escape from New York and L.A. You get scenes of like baying crowds, like the mob, this mob mentality, and this idea that the masses can take down a single entity, which is kind of cool too to think about it like that. But it's like like in New York you got like it's like wrestling, which is then replaced with basketball in LA. and they had to like shoot them down. But even then, you get like kind of big gangs, kind of all around. And so, yeah, it's interesting that like most of his films have this, and probably another reason why he has to stick on such wide lenses because it's such like crowd shots or kind of shots of larger groups,
Yeah, flipping.
Yeah, Prince of Darkness is awesome.
Yeah, it's a great film. It's another one like I didn't realize like was probably one of my favorites until I rewatched it, and then I got 2 copies here. Like, 'cause I bought the Blu-ray and flipping bought this not long after.
Oh yeah.
Like, obviously, I think I'm on my 7th hard copy of The Thing.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Is that all Blu-rays, or is that including some DVDs and some VHS?
DVDs, VHS.
Yeah. That's wicked. But Prince of Darkness is it might be kind of one of his underrated ones, but I see the apocalyptic connection of it. I mean, you could say that like They Live is an apocalyptic film as well. You could definitely say that the Escape films are apocalyptic. So it's strange because like
almost sort of post-apocalyptic, I'd say.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so I guess these are the ones that are almost they're supposing or they're foreshadowing a oncoming threat rather than in the Escape films. It's like, well, we're fucking here now.
That's very Lovecraft, isn't it? Like In the Mouth of Madness, like it's something about like an ethereal like forces greater than we can understand taking over the earth, but like from the point of view of like one guy writing a diary or something, or
and what was wrong with Sam Neill in the mid-90s that he just wanted to make these completely fucked up films? Like, I just
Sam Neill had a crazy run, like flipping. He sort of like he's getting his like Oscar attention with like Piano or whatever, and he's like getting his super mainstream hit with Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
and then he's
I love the idea of doing a double feature with Event Horizon with this film.
Oh yeah, Event Horizon in the Mouth of Madness is a great double feature. I've done that before.
Oh yeah. Okay, I gotta try that on for size, I think, because that is just your Sam Neill, Sam Neill-a-thon. But it's just Sam Neill just goes completely insane.
Yeah. There's always a little bit there at the start, and by the end of it, he is as insane as it is possible to be.
Yeah.
And
then is it Jürgen Prochnow as Sutter Kane? He's only got a small role in it, but he's pretty
it's one of those where like his presence is felt throughout the whole film. So like if you haven't watched it in a bit, you feel like he's in it all the time. But but it's because it's over. It's like how in Beetlejuice gets 8 minutes of screen time.
Right, exactly. But then also like there's images in that film that were some of the scariest, I think, from Carpenter that I think I saw. Like the kid on the bike, then constantly going back and forth, and and then just aging, and that was that kind of stays with you.
Yeah, the writing on the walls, the writing on Sam Neill.
Oh, and then even going through the book, like all those pages of the book, and he's like ripping through it. Mad film. It might be like it might be Carpenter's kind of wildest film. I don't know. I'm trying to think of the right.
I think it's like the one where he fully got to fucking explore the cosmic horror thing like most fully.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what The Thing and Prince of Darkness indicated they were heading to. He got to explore it fully in the Mouth of Madness.
Yeah. And I think to really good effect. I mean, this one, like, I don't know what the critical response was for this, but it seems to be quite well liked now anyway on Letterboxd, right? But especially compared to like some of his kind of efforts to come and stuff around that time. I mean, even with Escape from LA. I mean, I don't mind Escape from LA. I think as much as
yeah, I've what you call it. I have a lot of fun with Escape from LA now. At the time, I remember like it was like there's a lot of stuff in it that's very silly, like flipping, like literally surfing down Sunset and all that kind of thing.
Pam Grier as a kind like voiced by a man, or maybe they just deepened her voice or something. And
yeah, they did some kind of effects in it, but computers were starting to come in, and it was like like very early days of these techniques, and studios were kind of like trying to force this computers into films, like. And like this was after things like Jurassic Park, where the effects are like still pretty solid today, but like that was on Jurassic Park money, and this was kind of the first wave of films where like studios were realizing like oh, we can do this cheaper with computers, but if you do it cheaper, it looks cheaper, and like the reason Jurassic Park looks so good is because it was more money than would be like sunk into like a lot of practical effects films to do something on an even grander scale. But you know, you want it quick or you want it Tuesday, and God knows what computers they were fucking using. And what was it been? Windows 3.1 at the time?
Yeah, I think so. They were just like mocking most of it up on Paint.
I mean, like what you call it? Like, well, it would have been like I suppose like Windows 95.
Yeah, it would have been
because this is 96.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like the operating system that came on a compact disc, which was considered a revolution.
And then it's funny because you know it's obviously the effects that are then rendered and created in that film are interesting, because you then also experience what their vision of technology was in 1996 that they assumed would happen in the next 15 years. Well, no, it's like 17 years or something. It's 2013, I think. But so it's just interesting to see you know, what they assume technology, like holograms and things. This huge kind of catch on, and their own holographic technology is only really kind of catching on now, or at least since the Tupac Coachella thing. It's kind of got into
I suppose that would have been about like that was a while ago now. Like maybe that was around 2013.
Probably was actually. Maybe they were like, oh, you know, we better catch up. But
the thing I always find mad about science fiction, like from the 80s and 90s, is that no one predicted good screen resolution, or or did they predict it? Because presumably you could just like it'd be a lot easier to like flipping like composite things in, just like green screen style with that. But would it look too uncanny to like the people of the time? Like we just wouldn't understand like a clear picture.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the other thing that it's strange that John Carpenter didn't want to predict, or any of these filmmakers really who were being screwed like this, is because in the VHS era, his style of shooting and photography, which was hugely, you know, widescreen, that him and Cundy, you know, worked on, and then other cinematographers, as we said, like obviously is a, you know, cinema scope. It's a cinematic widescreen format that then gets placed onto a 4:3, you know, VHS.
The pan and scan thing.
And then and you know, they do like the scan and pan thing where they basically just take you know, they pan to different parts of the image depending on where the information was. But this is a guy, like Carpenter is a guy who just puts so much in the frame, and so you lose so much on the 4:3 screen watching, you know, one of his films cropped. And it's just really funny that in a film like LA, you know, we're looking at this future and all this future technology that might be invented by that point, and they still think that we're going to be on 4:3 or even smaller little screens and stuff. There's never widescreen. It's interesting that seems like a really simple step in and logical step in technology that you're already seeing on cinema screens and sort of out of home screens at the time anyway.
I think like my first copy of Halloween, like which would have been about like maybe 95, like I think, because it was a big thing at the time that they put it out on a widescreen VHS, and I would have had like a fucking maybe like 10-inch 10-inch 4x3 telly. So I was watching. So
Super, just super
yeah.
crop down then.
Yeah, but that was what taught me about what should we call it? The use of the frame.
Yeah.
Because obviously there's lots of shots in Halloween where like someone's talking, and maybe Michael Myers is like peeking out of a hedge in the foreground, and
Exactly.
you know, you've either got to crop him out or you've got to like zoom over and like, you know, you've got to make a big deal about him being there. And
well,
like
there's a moment where oh, I'm blanking on a name, but the second babysitter. No, I think the one who gets killed in the car. She's on the phone to Laurie, and she is walking back and forth in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And then you see in the background, you know, the camera pans twice, kind of back and forth. And again, I just think you'd be losing so much of that image probably in
you do like what should call it? That was one of the things that first got the bit where he just appears and then the next time he's gone, so he has moved on to
But it's just so much. You sort of like, it's strange to think that I'm kind of, when I'm revisiting all this stuff now, you know, with John Carpenter, I'm taking all of this widescreen cinematography for granted. Because you are, you know, that's just how it was obviously shot and how it's designed, and it's just a huge staple of his style. You'd associate with his style, and yet, you know, the era on which most people were consuming this stuff, the way that most people were consuming this stuff, just completely loses that. You know, and does it just feel like any old, you know, kind of B horror of the time, you know, back then would. I'm sure a lot of people who consumed it. Obviously, now we have like the benefit of hindsight, and we revisit this stuff as cult classics, and we put it into the public imagination like that. But at the time, it, you know, it was just any old horror film, I suppose. You know,
and like we're starting to see the introduction of like direct-to-video horror. So like things would be made for this screen, where it would be made for these 4x3 frames. Whereas, like,
oh yeah, of course,
from like beginning to end, there's no doubt about it that John Carpenter was directing cinema.
Absolutely, but did it get lost in the shuffle with those VHS, you know, tapes? You know, is an interesting thing, and so yeah, God bless the introduction of widescreen telly.
Is right. He's only got a couple of films left, so we should touch on them. Vampires. Have you seen Vampires?
I've not seen Vampires. I've heard, interestingly, I've not seen Vampires or Ghosts of Mars, and they're still kind of on my like hit list for it. But I've heard interesting things. Let's say.
Yeah. Vampires, like you know, it's a Post from Dusk Till Dawn thing. It's sweaty in the desert. Yeah, it's what's it called? That's a very fun film. That and James Woods is very fun in it, which is one reason why I don't think it gets talked about, because he's like big right wing guy. These guys, he's a fucking lunatic boomer. Like,
it's such a shame, isn't it? Because you know.
Yeah, flipping like there's no denying he's got a bit of greatness, and he is fantastic in Vampires. He's just this guy who's just who's just proper fuck you. Like, there's one point where he's like tied up and the fucking like the vampires are just about to kill him. He's like, "Go on, you prick!" And he's just being a complete cunt with it, like, and it's very good like that. Ghosts of Mars, not the best film. Kind of fun, but like at this point, I believe like he'd say just show up to set, check what people are doing. He goes, "Yeah, looks fine. I'm off home, smoke some weed." Yeah,
exactly. I'm off home to play Xbox. Love it. He just completely phoned it in by that point. What? Well, I mean, just to rewind a little bit, because we skipped over Christine. Have you seen Christine?
Oh yeah. The Stephen King adaptation.
Yeah, it might be the only film about a sentient car that I totally bought into.
Yeah. Flipping Stephen King was doing that
not since Brum have I have I been totally bought into a sentient car like that, a jealous girlfriend car.
Yeah. I know. Stephen King was like flipping. He was doing like fucking like haunted appliance stories, like, and flipping like, you know, he would do because I think Stephen King, under the influence of much fucking cocaine, thought like, oh yeah, if John Carpenter could make this about a car, well, if I make something about a load of trucks and I'll direct it. And he made Maximum Overdrive, which is Cocaine the movie.
I mean, it was the early to mid '80s, so I think most of Hollywood was pretty much there, and Stephen King hot on the trail. But yeah, so was this the influence for him making that? Was like him seeing that John Carpenter could interpret his material and make Christine? Was that?
Because I think like he had a problem with some of his adaptations, specifically Kubrick's The Shining.
Yeah, he still hates that, doesn't he? He doesn't. He's never come round to The Shining.
Yeah, flipping. To this day, like, and like this was on is super fucking like cocaine era, and like fucking like the fucking trailer for Maximum Overdrive is just fucking coked up Stephen King stands in front of a screen going, "I'm directing the film now. Just think how good this is going to be. I'm definitely going to be better than Kubrick."
Yeah.
And he's probably thought because of how much like Carpenter nailed this shit, he thought like that's the way to go. Like,
yeah. Oh my god, yeah, I totally I've got to see Maximum Overdrive. So it was actually in the wake of The Shining and his disdain for that, and him basically saying no one knows how to direct my shit. Although John Carpenter did do a good job, so I'm gonna fucking It's like his I mean, obviously it's Stephen King, so you know it's horror and it's not always completely grounded, but there's a difference. Like there's a difference in the levels of grounded in reality between something like The Shining and something like Christine, where a car becomes a jealous girlfriend. But I did,
and like flipping the emotional beats in it work.
They do. The emotional beats.
It makes sense that he's become seduced by this car.
I mean,
can fix itself.
Can I just say, this really reawakened the possibilities of the term shitter as an insult. Like just calling someone a shitter. That's what he's doing half the time, isn't he, Arnie? He's just like, get rid of all these shitters out here.
Yeah.
Like, and he starts like, he shakes up like the girl and he's like, you shitter. Like, great fucking term. And the old hillbilly who sells them the car, Robert Blossom is his name, and he's been in a few things, but he's people may know him best as the creepy old neighbor from Home Alone with the shovel. So I got a kick out of seeing him appear as well. But it's weird because it feels like the least carpentery of that era, I'd say. Even just down to things like the cinematography and how it's shot, it's it kind of maintains some of the things we were talking about, the widescreen and everything, but it does feel a bit more like it's serving
more of a commercial sheen to it, I'd say.
Yeah. There's a studio touch, I think, a little bit more. But yeah, there's there's a line. I've got a little note here because there's one they use the line when he's trying to chat up the girl. Do you like music? Completely unironically, it's actually like played as a real chat up line. Like the possibility that maybe someone wouldn't is still very much in the air when he asked the question, "Do you like music?" She goes, yeah. It's slight thing.
Yeah, well, one could be talking about Conway Twitty, one could be talking about Black Sabbath, like.
Yeah. It's really funny how like the Arnie guy also just turns into a dickhead so quickly. Like between six, it's like he's going through puberty 4 years late. All of a sudden, he's like just this moody fucking wanker.
Yeah, it's just the aggressive thing is like the second what you call it. You feel sympathy someone because they're the oppressed, they're the picked on.
Yeah,
but it's always been in them to be a prick, and as soon as they've got the fucking slightest bit of authority or upper hand
and confidence,
then fucking like the prick comes out. And like that probably is something to do with authority and all, isn't it? Like, it's like it's the bullied kid becoming a fucking police officer and fucking it's what you call it, the nerd becoming the shitty manager who mistreats his employees. It's very much the it is that it's fucking the revenge on the world that attracts people to take on a position of authority.
Yeah, absolutely. And then weirdly though, it kind of plays with a like shifting protagonist a little bit towards the end, because obviously, like, spoiler alert, Arnie dies. So but you're also throughout it, you're not sure if you're rooting for Arnie or for his mate. I've forgotten his name now. The jock friend that he's also somehow friends with, but is kind of maybe not a jock, is kind of sort of in between. He's certainly not one of the bullies, and he's certainly like got his back. That guy. Anyway, and so you're not quite sure who the protagonist is throughout that film. I found, like, you're definitely rooting for,
because you are following someone who is a prick for the majority of the runtime.
Yeah. Even though at the beginning you can see that they've been like picked on their whole life, and that they're the weaker of the chaff. But
I've never read the book, Christine. I'd be interested to sort of like look at it, because I'm wondering if that's kind of like Carpenter's twist on it, because like Stephen King's work, like particularly around this time, it's a lot it's very internal. It's not dialogue led, it's not action led, it's internal monologue led. So with it being led by internal monologue, like it's more the turmoil of like the almost the possession, and so like you've got more of awareness that the main character is like a victim of possession that's affecting him. Whereas I wonder if the Carpenter twist is that he's got a little bit of authority and a bit of something about him, and now he can be the prick.
Absolutely.
I wonder if
he owns this piece of machinery as well, and he is the irresponsible one that is like bringing this kind of this threat, this danger to the innocents. So it's that I found really interesting in it, is that like actually you think it could go the other way, where it's like the really hot girl at school and like the jock guy are kind of clearly, they've had an upper hand in life, and in their social status at school and all this kind of thing, and they deserve kind of punishment, and that's what you're maybe like sort of leaning towards at the beginning, or maybe not punishment, but just kind of, like you don't feel for them as much, you don't root for them as much, but then, like you say, it sort of subverts it all completely, because you're not quite sure whether you should be rooting for this guy after he essentially irresponsibly becomes possessed by a demon car, and then it clearly goes off the fucking deep end a little bit. I don't know, but it's a real it's a fun one.
Fucking fantastic stuff.
Hey, quick one, have you seen Dark Star?
Yeah, I have. Flipping, I haven't rewatched it in a bit. I was intending to rewatch it today, but I had some issues with work where I had to actually do my job.
Oh, I
which
hate
was
that. Yeah.
which was unfortunate. I'm just going to double check. I've got a feeling it might be on Arrow, or it was at one point.
I think I just found it on some. I think it's actually on Daily Motion. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. It is on Arrow, and yeah. What you call it? It'd be nice to flip in what you call it? Like mention a bit about this before we wrap up, because of like how great his career is, like, and it did taper off and things did have less of his involvement. I rather than end on that note, I'd rather end on this note.
Oh.
And but yeah, like you know, it's his uni film, his student film. It's him very, very literally finding his feet, and what's got it's a collaboration with Dan O'Bannon, which is who'd like what you call it? He would go on to make write Alien.
Yeah, and he also work on Star Wars. I think a little bit. I think George Lucas saw Dark Star and kind of saw something in Dan O'Bannon, but then Dan O'Bannon didn't have much career after that, if I'm not mistaken. But he had a little
he was more off in the cult arena. Like I think like his most notable banger after that would be Return of the Living Dead.
Oh, there you go. Okay, yeah, cool. No, yeah, but Dark Star's an interesting one just to watch from purely kind of pure creation point of view. You know, you can feel in every scene with the low budget shoestring nature of it. I mean, they made it for like 60K out of USC, and it's real kind of it really looks like a labor of love with every single, especially in the set design. I'd say you know, they're building these incredible sets of this spaceship out of, you know, egg cartons and all kinds of crap. I mean, it's just a real kind of necessity is the mother of invention film, and so I think as sort of an artifact of that, it's probably more enjoyable than an actual film. So I mean, it's quite funny. It has got some funny, you know, it's a sort of sci-fi comedy, and it has got some quite funny elements to it. Some of them kind of more accidental than others. Like they build an alien creature out of a beach volleyball, and it looks exactly like a beach volleyball trying to be an alien creature, and that's good fun. Again, just as a sort of, there's a moment actually in The Mouth of Madness where a sort of a small ball gets thrown to the foot of Julie Carmen, and she picks it, and it's got the same spots as the beach ball in Dark Star, and sort of feel like it's maybe like a subtle reference and homage, but it'd be strange if it was, because I might be reading too much into that, because John Carpenter, he's not disowned it, but he's just sort of said, you know, it's not my best. Well, obviously, you know, it's a student film out of
I think like it was like a student film, like it was maybe a shorter film and all, and then they got the ability to get a bit more funding, add a bit more to it, and like get an actual release for it, which is quite a remarkable achievement. Like
they had to multitask quite a lot as well, I think, and I think it was just a lot of work for diminished results as he saw it. And I think but this is where he starts, you know, scoring the films, and from that moment on, he's basically scoring every single one of his films.
This is it. Like he says, he started doing it because it meant he didn't have to pay anyone. Yeah, and then he ends up becoming one of the greatest composers of genre pictures.
It's mad how that works, isn't it? And the most unique and distinctive sounds. You know, you're always going to recognize that Carpenter synth and those like duns and things. And
it's wild how flipping primitive the synths he would have been using are. Like, you know, you haven't even got a visual readout to sort of work out the waveform that's going to create the sound you want to make. But it's the DIY element of it, and the ambition. That with his student your student film where it's you and your mate and like someone else you get and a couple other people you get into act and maybe you're getting a couple of your mates to help out.
Yeah.
It's the ambition of like a lot of student films would be like, okay, like what have we got? Okay, we got a room and you know, we'll try and make kind of a chamber piece and make it visually interesting and whatever this. But he's looking. He wants to be Kubrick. He wants to make 2001. He's like, no, flipping. I don't like flipping like what should we call it, boring dramas. I like sci-fi, and that's what I'm going to make. And if I don't have the facilities to make it, then I'm going to figure out how to make it with what I've got.
This is it. I mean, like 2001 was so fresh as well at the time. It's like 6 years after, and it's such a it's clearly such an influence. You can see these kids, you know, at uni, just probably just like watching that every night, fucking like getting off their face and just like getting stuck in 2001 while they're writing this thing, and just really like that's what I love and respect and I kind of like relate to the most, because I've never in my own kind of filmmaking I've never really got, but you know, we never forgot it was a bit more like, you know, could throw a little bit of budget behind it. It's still very much like an independent thing, and it wasn't but you know, in the past we've made films in a similar way, not nearly as ambitious, because what we did, for example, for like an early kind of 40-minute film that I worked on with a mate, was set it all in the woods, which is basically what, you know, when you've got then an entire set location for created for you, you don't have to pay a set designer to make anything, or you don't have to try and set design too much, you know, yourself. But still, we had those elements of, there were still elements of that, even be it with kind of props, even just with kind of the cameras and how we're shooting this stuff and where we're working with natural light and the sun. It's kind of thinking through every single decision and really feeling like you're working towards something which is going to be and making it in the best possible way with the totally limited resources that you have, you know, being able to visualize something and you know, creating out there. And I think Dark Star is a real testament to being able to do that. And it's a shame that he can't, but also completely understandable that he can't really separate himself now from that and see the craft in what he has created, just because he knows, you know, internally what he had in his mind is totally different to what's on screen. Where that's not the case, you know, later with later films, when he actually had the budget and the control to be able to.
It's like that with like any art form, really, that you aim trying to create the vision in your head, and like not even through like having more access to facilities or money, but just by becoming better and more experienced at your craft, you're more capable of delivering the vision of what's in your head.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's always going to make it hard to look at. I don't think there's. I don't think you'll ever meet an artist of any form that doesn't look at their first attempt and cringe a bit. Like,
that's it. That's exactly it. But those are the necessary steps to kind of get where you know, even Tarantino still hasn't released My Best Friend's Birthday, which was a film he made in the late 80s, predating
Reservoir Dogs,
and has like Roger Avery in it, and I think they worked on it and, you know, kind of made it together. And that's just one of those ones which he just is like, no, I'm never releasing that. I think there's actually multiple filmmakers who have had similar experiences, and so it's it's definitely, you know, something.
Yeah, it's difficult in it, because we know it'd be fascinating for us to see them things. Like,
exactly.
you know, I'm thinking back to like what I've seen of Sam Raimi's Within the Woods, which was sort of the proto Evil Dead.
Yeah. It's incredible. I mean, Evil Dead is just one of those ones again where it's just that the DIY nature of it, you know, just kind of comes through. And then at least with that, he had a sort of practice run, as you say, but just it's just amazing ingenuity. You're with that film and what they're able to create on basically absolutely nothing in filmmaking terms. Yeah, it's so impressive. Sorry, mate. One other thing I just saw. Sorry to dart around, but like on Assault on Precinct 13. This is one of the things that really got me the first time watching Assault on Precinct 13 again was just how like completely brazenly they just show a little girl with an ice cream being gunned down. Like, a shot just out of fucking nowhere. I was just like, Jesus Christ! And apparently, this I thought to myself at the time, I was like, that must have had some contention to it. And not only did it have that, but found out that the MPAA, which is the American version of the BBFC, for context for listeners. So the BBFC, obviously, watch films.
If anyone wants to hear about some of the history and controversies about the BBFC, I'd say pop back to the episode I released a couple of weeks ago. By the time this is released, with Stowe, formerly Stowaway.
Video Nasties.
Video Nasties, yeah.
That's great. That's a great episode. So basically, and then the MPAA is the American equivalent of that, and so they essentially said to Carpenter that he has to remove that shot, or it gets an X rating, which means it doesn't get a theatrical release at all. And so what the distributor essentially recommended Carpenter do was just remove that scene from the version that he sent to the MPAA, to the censors, and he did. But then it got an R rating without that shot in it, and the distributors were like, well, we're just putting out the film with it in anyway. So they put it back in the film and just
renegade actions, renegade moves.
Exactly. Apparently it was just so kind of like low on the radar that there weren't any repercussions to that, but I just love the brazen nature of it. But also it wasn't, I mean, Carpenter later actually regretted apparently shooting it the way he did, because it was just so like, just a lot to see. And you also know that it's maybe not the best thing to have in your movie when Mel Gibson is singing the praises of that scene. Is apparently Mel Gibson just like loved that scene and was like, I love it when a film takes things that like too far and you go to that next step. And so like I'd recommend going to see this. So I don't know if
it is one thing. It's like, even to this day in a lot of films, it's like you can't kill the kid. And you can't kill the animal. That's something that exists, that exists to this day. But when you see that in a film, then that sets the stakes. If the kid can die, then anyone can die. No one is safe.
Yeah, it's a really good way of saying I'm fucking here. And for his first film, he considers it his first proper film because he considers it his first proper film because he was shooting on a schedule. That's quite a statement to make it in there. But yeah. So yeah, I do love just the fucking brazen nature of it.
Yeah. Amazing stuff, man. I think we'll wrap it up there. I think I'm going to split this and make it a two-parter.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's automatically going to make you the a three-time guest.
Oh, excellent.
But when schedules align, or maybe we think up another deep dive we could do, we'll definitely have you back, most certainly. Before checking out, is there anything you would like people to get their eyes on, their ears on? What's popping?
Well, just keep an eye on my Twitter @MarlowRapper for more updates on when we're going to be releasing Everyone Forgot, because we'll probably release it for public consumption at a certain time in, if not the near future, then the future. And I don't know exactly what that means, or where it might land and what have you. But yeah, we're excited about that, and it's currently got into another festival, so we're kind of seeing out the festival run for it, and then we'll see.
Overseas debut in the States, I believe.
Sorry?
Overseas debut in the States, is it?
It is, yeah. So it's at the Desmond District Demons Festival.
Mm.
And so so excited for people to check it out. In the meantime, there is a trailer that is pinned to my Twitter, so you can go and watch the trailer. I'm very proud of the trailer. You can watch that. I think that's probably good for now.
Okay, fucking
Thank you for having me on, mate. I'm honoured to be the first accidental 3-time guest through making a 2-parter, and sorry for rambling on so much.
It's not rambling. This is all the good stuff. Rambling's when it's just any old bollocks. This has been the good stuff all the way through. Fantastic conversation.
We need to meet up for a beer or something, and just then we can just ramble the whole night away and not keep to.
Oh yes.
Kind of
Yeah, we'll definitely make that happen. It needs to, and very soon. Yeah. Well, when schedules allow, at any rate. Okay, on that note, this has been Kinell Sinister Cinema. Like, subscribe, all that kind of crap. I hate saying it, but you got to say it because I forget to say it, and then people don't do it. So please do it.
Like and subscribe to fucking Sinister Cinema podcast. Yeah. Do it now. You're listening to it. If you're listening to it 2 hours deep into a podcast, that must mean you care about it. So what are you still doing here? Like and subscribe right now.
Yeah. I noticed some people do it so it rhymes. It pisses me off. I didn't think of it first when they say, thanks for liking and subscribing.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. And also, I like it because it's not only a multi, but it's also it's assumptive closing. It's like you've already done it.
Yeah.
You have, because you'd be a fool not to. So that's it, obey.
Yes, obey. KSC, safe. Yo, and there we have it. The finale of John Carpenter Retrospective with Marlow. Hope you enjoyed that. I certainly enjoyed recording it. And by the time this goes out, because we'll be a couple of weeks down the line from when we record it, happy Halloween and all that shit. Maybe I'll get something together for a Halloween special. Maybe I won't. Who knows? I got diagnosed with ADHD next week, and I'm probably going to be on some really, really powerful drugs, and I don't know what they're going to do yet. So we'll see how that one plays out. Meantime, thanks very much for liking, subscribing, all them things to the channel. Give us a share on Patreon, and check out our Patreon. Patreon.com/Kinell Sinister Cinema. If you're already watching this on Patreon, I love you. You are so much better than all these other people. You could be one of those other people if you're one of them other people. You can be better. Do better. Sign up to the Patreon and support. Keep this thing rolling. But yeah, say